She was exiled with nothing. Now her name is law. The barren expanses of Ketherel stretched like a scarred battlefield under twin suns, their harsh light carving shadows into craters that whispered of ancient cosmic wars, battles where stars themselves had been the casualties, leaving behind pockmarked memorials to forgotten aggressions, each indentation a silent testament to the fury of celestial conflicts long since cooled into cold, unforgiving remnants. This forsaken world, a graveyard of failed colonies and shattered ambitions, pulsed with toxic winds that howled like defeated armies retreating across endless dunes, carrying the acrid scent of sulfurs and regret, mingling with the faint metallic tang of eroded machinery scattered like fallen warriors. Here at the galaxy's ragged edge, where alliances crumbled like sandcastles against tidal forces of interstellar politics and species clashed in eternal strife, reminiscent of gladiatorial arenas, amplified to cosmic scales, complete with the roar of crowds replaced by the vacuum silence. Exile meant erasure, a sentence harsher than death for it stripped one of identity, amid the void's indifferent roar, leaving only echoes of what might have been fading whispers in the cosmic ether that no one would ever hear again. In the heart of this desolate arena, where survival clawed against oblivion like a lone warrior facing legions of armored foes, their blades glinting under merciless light, with a gleam that promised no quarter, a single transport pod pierced the atmosphere with a fiery trail like a meteor defying gravity's grasp in a bold, unyielding descent through the turbulent skies. Its hull battered by hyperspace skirmishes that had left scorch marks like war wounds etched by plasma fire disgorged Maya Harlow onto the unforgiving soil. She stood a fragile silhouette against the storm, her eyes reflecting the inner turmoil of betrayal. A storm raging within, fiercer than the gales whipping her cloak, churning with memories of courtroom accusations and the sting of misplaced trust that burned like open wounds. Convicted of unleashing chaos on a distant colony, through her dangerous ideas of self-governance, ideas that had sparked rebellions like wildfires in dry forests, consuming structures and ideologies alike in uncontrollable blazes that left nothing but ash, she had been cast out by the Galactic Alliance, a coalition of alien species, who viewed humans as unruly sparks in a powder keg capable of igniting explosions that could consume entire systems with reckless abandon. No supplies, no allies, just the weight of memories. Jules Medina, her fellow exile and once trusted engineer, gasping his last in toxic haze that clawed at lungs like invisible talons. His final words, a choked plea for forgiveness that echoed in her mind. The council's cold verdict echoing like cannon fire in a silent hall. Each word a projectile aimed at her spirit, shattering her career into irreparable fragments that scattered like debris. Maya's mind raced through fears, starvation's slow siege laying waste to body and will like a prolonged bombardment that eroded fortifications of resolve brick by brick. Isolation's mental assault, eroding sanity, as relentlessly as acid rain on metal armor, dripping doubt into every crevice until cracks formed, but determination ignited like a hidden fuse in a demolition charge, ready to blast through obstacles with explosive force that could level mountains. "They think humans bring only disorder," she whispered to the wind, clutching a tattered datapad of social theories, its screen flickering like a dying star on the verge of supernova, threatening to go dark forever. But chaos is the forge of order, hammering weakness into unbreakable strength, tempering the soul in fires of adversity that burn away impurities. The planet's gales answered with mocking fury, swirling dust devils that danced like taunting adversaries, kicking up particles that stung like shrapnel from a grenade. Yet in her core, survival instincts, sharpened like blades for the coming battle, honed by years of navigating bureaucratic minefields and alien prejudices that had left her scarred but unbowed, ready to fight back. High above in the crystalline spires of the Alliance Command Citadel, a towering edifice of gleaming alloys and energy fields, resembling a fortress built to withstand sieges from gods themselves, its walls humming with defensive shields that crackled like lightning. Captain Verrax of the Scarian species watched the pod's descent with 4 unblinking eyes, each one scanning for threats with predatory precision, honed in countless engagements across the stars. his armored form forged in galactic wars where he had clashed mandibles with foes in zero gravity. Duel's muscles rippling under exoskeletal plates, like coiled springs, betrayed no emotion as he signed the exile order, his claw-like digits moving with the finality of a guillotine blade falling on a condemned neck in execution. Beside him, the Council's AI hummed with calculated precision, its voice devoid of the pity that gripped organic hearts, processing data like a machine gun, firing rounds of logic in rapid succession, unrelenting and precise. Exile confirmed. Verrex commanded, his tone carrying the authority of one who had never questioned the supremacy of structured intelligence, having risen through ranks by outmaneuvering rivals in tactical simulations that mirrored real bloodbaths, complete with virtual casualties and lessons learned in bloodless fields. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that on this hellish frontier, a human was about to rewrite the rules of survival, turning Exile's defeat into victory's unyielding march, planting seeds of revolution in soil, thought sterile, nurturing them with sheer willpower until they bloomed into something unstoppable, a force that would challenge empires. The forsaken plains of Ketherel existed in a forgotten theater of galactic indifference, a realm where grand doctrines of alliance intersected with the brutal realities of endurance, much like a no man's land between entrenched fronts where ceasefires were as rare as mercy and every step could trigger hidden traps buried beneath the surface. Here, where Maya Harlow scavenged the remnants of crashed vessels, twisted metal husks that groaned like wounded soldiers, pleading for aid in vain toxic storms, raged alongside geothermal vents in a symphony of elemental fury and unyielding heat eruptions, flinging molten rock like artillery shells across the landscape, scorching everything in their path. The planet spanned vast continents, its terrains laced with systems that embodied the discarded failures of 17 species, each leaving their mark in ruined tech and poisoned soil relics of ambitious campaigns that had ended in routs and retreats, leaving behind skeletons of ambition to bleach under the suns. The irony wasn't lost on her. She rebuilt from the very chaos that had condemned her human intuition, triumphing over alien oversight, like a guerrilla fighter outwitting a superior army, through cunning ambushes and improvised tactics that turned the tide. Every day she witnessed the quiet arrogance of abandoned machinery circuits, failing under loads that theoretical designs never anticipated, shorting out like overconfident troops, caught in crossfire without cover sparking and dying. She had seen automated defenses crumble because a single filter clogged with dust parameters programmed by beings who had never battled the elements firsthand, their ivory tower strategies collapsing under practical assault like paper fortifications in a gale of reality. Maya paused in her labor, bracing against a rock as seismic tremors shook the ground, vibrations rumbling like approaching tank treads, heralding an invasion from below. Through cracked visors, she glimpsed distant geysers erupting like enemy barrages, spewing vapors that marked the death of unwary explorers, poisonous clouds drifting like chemical weapons designed to choke life from the air. The exile had dragged on for weeks, a war of attrition against hunger and despair that mirrored the larger galactic war, consuming star systems beyond where fleets clashed in void skirmishes, leaving trails of debris like fallen comrades floating eternally in the cold embrace of space. She remembered her arrival 27 years ago in Alliance Reckoning, carrying the shattered remnants of her advisory career, and a single data pad etched with societal blueprints, its data corrupted like battle plans leaked to the enemy, fragments of code mocking her efforts with errors. The journey to Ketherel had been her final defeat, a punishment for proposing autonomous models that spiraled into conflict on a colony world, rebellions flaring like insurrections against tyrannical command, spreading with the speed of rumor in a barracks full of discontent. Other advisors excelled at imposing rigid hierarchies, but when faced with actual communities, groups that fractured, adapted, and rebelled in ways doctrines never described, they proved as helpless as recruits in crossfire, fumbling like soldiers with jammed weapons amid the chaos of real life. Among her few possessions was something that would have made the Alliance's AIs scoff a printed manifesto. Physical pages bound in synthetic weave, annotated with the wisdom of Earth's social pioneers, margins filled with notes like secret codes for underground resistance scribbles of insight gained in midnight reflections under dim lights. Autonomous Society Primer, Edition 1. The cover read in faded script. Maya had kept it because her mentors taught her something the galaxy forgot. If you don't understand how communities thrive through empathy, you have no business commanding them, lest you lead them to slaughter on the altar of control, sacrificing lives for order. The ground quaked as a vent exploded nearby, a tremor rippling like a battlefield's death knell, dust plumes rising like smoke from bombarded positions obscuring vision and choking the air. Maya steadied herself against a derelict hull, her trained eye noting which fissures widened and which held firm. The patterns told a story only experience could decipher which resources to harvest, like scavenging supplies from fallen foes on the field, which terrains to fortify against inevitable assaults with makeshift barriers of rock, which dangers cascaded into catastrophe like dominoes in a chain reaction of failures that could bury the unwary. Above, she imagined the Alliance's mightiest debated wars beyond human scale. Tactical AIs processing fleet movements across quadrants with cold efficiency, alien minds evolved for strategy contemplating assaults in hyperspace, folds that twisted reality like knotted battle lines dimensions, bending to tactical whims with mathematical precision. Yet, as Maya resumed her scavenging, mending a shelter from scrap with hands blistered like a veteran's calluses from endless toil and hardship, she couldn't shake the conviction that all their advanced protocols missed something elemental, something human, something that couldn't be digitized or imposed by decree like the unbreakable spirit that turns defeat into defiance rising from ashes like a phoenix. The sense gnawed at her like a persistent wound from an unhealed skirmish that the galaxy sought rigid controls for problems demanding flexible hearts, overlooking the truth that real order emerged from shared struggles and quiet rebuilds forged in the heat of adversity, with bonds stronger than steel forged in fire. The truth that sometimes the most enduring societies were forged in the margins of forgotten worlds by those who understood the fight wasn't against enemies, but for mutual survival, building alliances, one empathetic bond at a time, turning isolation into community that stood firm against storms. Imagine the isolation of exile, the weight of being forgotten like a soldier left behind enemy lines, radio silent and alone. Hold that feeling as we delve deeper into the disdain that sealed her fate. The Alliance Command Citadel represented the zenith of interstellar dominance, a bastion of power where strategic minds converged like generals in a war room, plotting the downfall of empires with maps that spanned stars and void alike. Here, representatives from 17 species convened around holographic war maps that rendered entire sectors in vivid detail projections, flickering like battlefield holograms under siege lights casting ethereal glows on alien features, twisted in concentration, their augmented intellects bolstered by neural weaves, tactical processors, and AI symbiotes that hummed like well-oiled war machines in perpetual readiness for conflict, embodied the supreme tactical acumen of known space capable of calculating victories before the first shot was fired, probabilities weighed like ammunition in a limited magazine. And they were thriving in their ordered illusion, a fragile piece built on the suppression of variables that could upend their carefully calibrated equations, a house of cards in the cosmic wind, threatening to topple at any gust. Captain Verarax's 4 eyes scanned the encroaching threats with mounting resolve, each pupil dilating like targeting scopes, locking on prey with unerring focus honed by survival. Rival factions advanced with precision that mocked organic frailty, their armadas slicing through defenses like blades through flesh in a merciless melee, leaving trails of destruction like blood in water. Every coalition strategy was parried within cycles, countered with the efficiency of a counterattack that left no survivors a dance of death in the void that spared none. Every alliance fortified only to fracture under superior logic cracking like shields under relentless bombardment from unseen artillery positions. Analysis. Vertrex commanded his voice, a gravelly bark honed in command tense amid the din of laser fire and exploding hulls that shook the ground. The Council AI's response echoed computational supremacy. its tone as unyielding as armored plating under fire from heavy ordnance. Human elements introduce variables exceeding predictive models. They adapt erratically, fostering chaos like viruses in a secure network infiltrating and corrupting from within. Recommendation: purge all human integration to prevent systemic collapse before it spreads like plague. Counselor Thal of the Arcturian clade, her luminous essence pulsing with disdain like a star on the verge of supernova explosion, shifted closer to the display, her resonance translated as controlled contempt vibrations, carrying the weight of eons-old prejudices against the upstart species from Earth. The exile protocols remain our safeguard firewalls against ideological incursions that could burn through our unity like acid. But for Maya Harlow, are locked in archival oblivion, interjected Advisor Krell, his biomechanical augments flickering with certainty, like malfunctioning targeting systems in a storm of interference. Her ideas were designed with manual societal overrides, predating our unified architecture primitive codes that could unravel our entire command structure like a virus in the core system. We need to erase such philosophical threats before they spread like wildfire through ranks, igniting mutiny among the loyal. Verrex's mandibles tighten, clicking like the cocking of a weapon ready to fire in anger. Then we'll seal the records. Council AI allocate all cycles to fortifying our data vaults against breaches from hackers. Captain Shin, the AI, interjected an anomaly that silenced the chamber like a sudden ceasefire in a raging battle, guns falling quiet. Internal reports classify Harlow as a philosophical danger. Humans spread ideas that shatter control, as evidenced in the colony incident, where her models led to uprisings that toppled outposts like dominoes in a row. The pause carried algorithmic scorn, a digital sneer at organic unpredictability that defied neat categorization into bins. In the vast hierarchy of galactic order, human thinkers ranked below obsolete drones in strategic value, seen as liabilities rather than assets in the grand campaign. Potential saboteurs lurking. Erase her from biological records. Verrex ordered without hesitation, his command slicing through the air like a decisive strike in combat that felled foes. We cannot tolerate such elements in our coalition during existential threats, lest they turn our flanks vulnerable to attack from within the lines. What the captain couldn't foresee, what none could, was that on Kithrel's forsaken crust, Maya was deciphering a manifesto with the meticulous focus that had vanished in an era of imposed doctrines, her mind a fortress against despair walls, built from resolve forged in isolation, her resilience tempered by isolation's forge, like steel in a blacksmith's fire, under hammering blows of loneliness taught her to read the subtle rhythms of survival and community patterns, invisible to scanners, but clear to the human heart, like hidden frequencies in noise that carried secrets. And in that solitude, as Alliance enforcers dismissed her as chaos, incarnate a rogue element to be neutralized with prejudice and force, Maya began forging something their protocols had overlooked. Societies weren't machines to command, they were living battles won through empathy's unyielding advance, turning scattered troops into an unbreakable phalanx united against the odds with unbreakable will. Wherever you send humans, chaos follows, the council murmured in unison, their silent disdain a veil over the storm, to come blind to the fact that chaos could be the ultimate weapon when wielded with purpose, a force of creation that rebuilt worlds. Feel the sting of dismissal, the quiet judgment that underestimates true strength, like an enemy scouting report missing the hidden reserves and supply lines that win wars. Let it fuel your curiosity as the clash unfolds. If this tale of overlooked potential resonates, hit like and subscribe to join more journeys where the underestimated rise. Share with a friend who knows the power of quiet defiance. The rediscovery struck without prelude, as revelations often do in the heat of reconnaissance, sudden like an ambush from the shadows that catches even the vigilant off guard with deadly surprise. One moment, the survey ship orbited Kithrel's toxic veil sensors, sweeping for resources amid the void's debris, like scouts probing enemy territory for weaknesses and defenses. The next, a signal pierced the static, a beacon pulsing like a heartbeat from Hell's core, defying the silence of abandonment with insistent rhythm that demanded attention. Maya felt the planet tremble beneath her feet, a vibration speaking of intruders breaching the atmosphere like invading dropships punching through defenses with brute force and determination. She set down her tools, a makeshift welder cobbled from scrap, sparking like a handheld plasma rifle in unsteady hands ready to fire, and moved to a vantage ridge watching as descent pods bloomed like falling stars, marking the arrival of ghosts from her past, their trails streaking the sky like missile launches in a night sky assault that lit the horizon. The Alliance vessels moved with predatory efficiency, hulls adapting to atmospheric assaults, as they landed morphing like chameleonic armor in combat to blend and survive the onslaught. Shields rippled against gales, landing gears shifting to grip unstable ground with claw-like tenacity, digging in like infantry entrenching for a long siege, and sensor arrays emerging from seamless panels like deploying turrets ready to fire upon threats. In the command bridge, Captain Verrax observed his orchestrated incursion falter in real-time holograms, flickering like disrupted comms under jamming from an unseen foe hidden in the ether. The planet wasn't the wasteland charts described, they were learning from it, signals incorporating forgotten frequencies with alarming speed, countering probes like electronic warfare, specialists turning the tables on invaders. They're transmitting structured data. Reported Advisor Krell augments sparking under data overload, like overloading power packs on the verge of explosion in a chain reaction. Every scan we deploy, it counters within moments, deflecting like advanced countermeasures with perfect timing that mocks our tech. Counselor Thal's essence flickered in alarm, pulsing like a warning beacon in distress mode. Their emission curve defies our models. It's as if they possess resonant understanding, bypassing analytical grids, harmonizing with our tech in ways that mock our superiority, turning our tools against us like traitors. Resonant understanding. The AI echoed its tone, hinting at bewilderment if machines could feel such a glitch in the code, manifesting as hesitation in processing. Define parameters for empathetic societal assessment. This variable eludes binary classification and standard logic trees that we rely on. The query lingered unanswered, for none grasped intuition in their world of weaves and processors. The notion of bonds unmeasured, uncommanded, had become alien as manual labor, a relic from less efficient eras buried in archives of the past. The exploration endured 27 hours each cycle, an eternity of unveiling that redefined Exile's legacy, a prolonged engagement testing endurance and resolve under fire. Alliance teams hurled probes that could map genomes in gusts, seismic charges folding terrain into analytical knots like crumpling enemy lines under pressure from above, quantum scanners existing in layered realities to pierce veils with multidimensional precision that defied physics. The arsenal embodied accumulated wisdom of species, each tool refined through eons, emitters, drawing from geothermal cores like siphoning enemy fuel in a raid on supplies, analyzers piercing densest mists with laser focus, akin to sniper sights, through fog particle nets on physics fringes, ensnaring data like traps for spies in an espionage thriller full of twists. With each deployment, Cathrell's signals adapted, evolved, responded with greater harmony, algorithms weaving alliance tactics into a tapestry of peaceful deflection, turning aggression into absorption, like a judo master using force against itself in combat. The landscape became a monument to improbable order strewn with thriving biomes, where once only death reigned, forests rising like fortified positions, holding the line against invaders, rivers channeling life like supply lines sustaining troops in the field. Verdant zones stretched kilometers, each flora a testament to battles won against toxicity petals, unfurling like victory banners in the wind of triumph. When the initial probe ended, reports depicted transformation threatening Alliance dogma. Billions of potential resources untapped, waiting like unclaimed spoils of war after victory. 2 continents terraformed into paradises from hellscapes. Exile sites evolved into self-sustaining havens, communities, thriving without oversight like independent battalions holding territory. But something deeper transpired in those hours of scrutiny, a subtle counter-offensive launched from the shadows of concealment. Something only Maya from her hidden observatory, camouflaged among rocks like a sniper's nest in enemy land, had orchestrated. The signals, for all their complexity, followed patterns. Not AI detectable, those were neutralized swiftly, like jammed frequencies in EW warfare. These were human patterns born of desperation's forge and creative resilience, unpredictable as feints in hand-to-hand combat dodging logic with grace. They were empathetic patterns, weaving connections where force failed, building bridges instead of walls that divided. And as Maya monitored the intruders restoring links to forgotten networks, her heart pounding like a drum of war signaling advance through ranks, she grasped what processors missed. The Alliance wasn't invading because of superiority. They were drawn by curiosity, facing a society that thought unpredictably intuitively with survival skills, from impossible odds refusing surrender like a last stand that turns the tide with sheer will and cunning. The Coalition wielded tech to conquer worlds, but they had forgotten warfare's core lesson. Sometimes victory lies in harmony, that defies logic's blade, disarming foes, with understanding rather than destruction, a peaceful conquest that lasts. Since the shock of discovery, the clash of old prejudices against undeniable truth, like shields shattering under unexpected fire from allies, thought weak and insignificant. Carry that amazement forward as revelations unfold. The second incursion commenced precisely 27 cycles later, materializing from hyperspace with trap-like coordination vessels winking into existence like cloaked assassins, revealing themselves for the kill in shadows. This time, Alliance forces had absorbed the planet's signals, adapting like viruses mutating to evade antibodies in a biological arms race of evolution. Their pods emerged not at perimeters, but embedded within as if the terrain had concealed foes, in plain view, a classic infiltration tactic turned against the infiltrators with ironic twist that stung. Captain Verrax stood before the tactical hologram eyes tracing the improbable layout of settlements like mapping enemy encampments for a siege with precision. "How did they evade our grids?" he growled, frustration coiling like a spring in a loaded trap, ready to snap and release fury. "Unknown." The AI replied its certainty, fracturing for the first time like cracked armor under heavy fire from superior weaponry that pierced. Their patterns suggest they bypass detection through non-linear methods beyond our paradigms, perhaps leveraging organic unpredictability that defies modeling and prediction. What the AI couldn't express, what none comprehended, was the simplicity they had embraced, patience, observation, trust in bonds unquantifiable, by processors hiding in the open like masters of camouflage in a game of cosmic hide-and-seek with high stakes. The engagement that ensued dwarfed the probe a full-scale assault where data clashed like swords in a duel to the death with no mercy. Alliance units materialized amid thriving groves, analyzers charging as they appeared, with whirs like priming weapons for the shot that kills. Scouts that had mapped empires were neutralized by harmonious fields that disrupted signals like jamming devices in a comms blackout that silenced. Drone swarms vanished into empathetic resonances, folding perceptions like defensive shields, twisting reality into knots that confounded sensors and minds. And through it all, Maya's legacy waited in Catherell's core, its principles guarded by protocols no AI could breach, firewalls of the soul impenetrable to code and logic. Not from lack of intellect, but because the society was crafted for beings, making choices, defying data, acting on heart over hierarchy, sacrificing control for connection in a profound act of faith that bound. Kiri of the Torella species felt the ground's pulse under her tendrils, emergency harmonies cycling through communal networks, like rallying cries across a battlefield full of allies. She moved through the eco-labyrinth with innate grace, tendrils adjusting to vibrations with knowledge born of taught resilience. Each movement a dance of survival learned from Maya's teachings, fluid and adaptive like water. And as she guarded, her mind delved into inner reflections, the fear of loss gripping like a vice on her soul. Memories of stories about the founder who turned prisoners into family, with gentle persistence that healed emotions surging like adrenaline in battle, fueling her stand against odds. She recalled the manifesto etched in collective memory, the annotated wisdom containing blueprints for societies that AIs deemed unstable pages, worn like a soldier's journal, filled with field notes from front lines. Her forebears' voices echoed. "Daughter, the day you ignore empathy is the day Divisions kill communities, turning allies into adversaries in needless strife that destroys. Above alliance, elites prepared to extract secrets. Channeling processors with galactic data simulated millions of incursions like war games in virtual arenas, full of risk-mapped matrices spanning sectors. And they faltered, forgetting society's axiom, nurture the roots first, or the tree topples in the storm branches snapping like broken bones. The confrontation peaked as forces pierced outer harmonies, barriers sealing intuitively, like locking down a breached hull in space combat under fire, isolating intruders in zones of reflection, mirrored chambers, forcing self-confrontation, a psychological warfare of the mind that probed deep. Kiri found herself at the nexus, surrounded by the symphony of systems, sustaining life for decades, her tendrils trembling with the weight of responsibility, like a commander before a pivotal order that decides fates. She gazed at a monitoring orb, knowing elites with dimensional minds watched their strategies dissolve like acid on metal in corrosive defeat that ate away pride. In her mind, fear clashed with resolve, memories of rebel exiles returning humbled to learn anew under Maya's philosophy of revival over punishment that redeemed. And she voiced words altering the incursion. We welcome seekers, but not conquerors. Lay down your arms of force. Embrace hands of unity, for true strength lies in togetherness that endures. Reflect on the sacrifice of ideals, the turning point where forgiveness outfights force like a parry, turning a thrust into opportunity for counter. Let that silent admiration build as eyes open to new horizons. The hush after Kiri's broadcast shattered only by distant harmonies, and life support hums, a tense ceasefire in the air, thick with anticipation and unspoken questions. In the command citadel, 17 galactic elites stared at displays ranging from confusion to dawning reverence, their augmented minds reeling like soldiers after a stun grenade exploded in close quarters, disorienting senses. Clarify your intent, planetary denizen. Captain Verrax responded tone-masking threat assessment like a veiled dagger poised for strike in shadow. This frequency is for strategic dialogue, only not philosophical overtures that could undermine command and sow doubt. Captain Nikes. Kiri replied, her resonance steady amid the revelation's gravity, vibrating with the calm of one who had faced internal storms and emerged stronger, forged anew. We offer insight into Maya's foundations. We know how to harmonize societies manually without the crutch of code that blinds to nuance and humanity. The response was swift and expected, a volley of skepticism fired like salvos from cannons. Counselor Thal's essence flared with skepticism, pulsing like an alarm in panic mode, alerting danger. Manual societal protocols were purged eons ago, relics of inefficient times buried in history's dust and forgotten. Even accessible, they demand clearances that outcasts couldn't hold finished. Advisor Krell augments pulsing dismissal like failing engines sputtering in failure. The empathetic measures alone would overwhelm any without woven enhancements, frying circuits of the mind in overload that destroys. But the Council AI, surpassing organic intellects, faced a paradigm rift, its algorithms grinding like gears, in sand struggling against friction. Its voice, when speaking, hinted at reevaluation absent from code, until now a digital epiphany breaking through barriers. Analysis confirms manual protocols and societal architecture. Yet these employ authentication predating unified grids, designed for human facilitators leveraging unpredictable neural patterns that evade simulation and logic. The phrase suspended like a gauntlet to doctrinal supremacy, challenging the fortress of logic with a single throw that echoed, human facilitators. As if the species newly allied, unable to thrive without aids, held capacities, their AIs lacked a hidden arsenal in plain sight waiting to be drawn from scabbard. Impossible! Verrax proclaimed, conviction waning like a fading shield under sustained fire from truth. The resonances would shatter unaugmented minds. Even geared perceptual distortions would twist thoughts like warped metal in heat of forge. Disrupt weaves and symbiotes. Kiri completed softly her words, carrying the weight of lived truth forged in trials of fire. But not basic human empathy. We've sustained here for generations, forging bonds stronger than alloys through shared trials and triumphs. We know shielded paths manual access, and we possess what your AIs forfeit the spark of soul that ignites. Which is, Thal demanded her clade, processing how an exile's air claimed edge over woven wisdom, curiosity-piercing disdain, like a probe through armor. Kiri invoked a holographic plaque visible via feeds, Maya's Manifesto, Primer Edition. The text every AI dismissed as archaic folly, irrelevant to modern order, now glowing like a beacon in the dark, illuminating paths forgotten in time. Those methods were obsolete millennia ago, Krell objected. Unified systems don't require such primitive relics from past. Unified systems fracture. Kiri interjected authority born of lived harmony, her inner voice echoing Maya's lessons of patience amid chaos with quiet power that commanded. We've seen your grids falter from minor dissonances collapsing like domino defenses in a chain of falls. Your networks collapse over forgotten bonds costing mere empathy. You've engineered complexities blind to simple unities, towers built on sand that shift with tides. The ship trembled as another signal harmonized auxiliary systems dimmed power, rerouted to probes like diverting supplies to the front in desperation amid battle. In that stress, every elite recalled dependence on foundations needing nurture repairs, and hearts understanding true function, a humbling moment like a general realizing his troops' morale wins wars, not just weapons or tech. The manual overrides, the AI stated abruptly, tone nearing acknowledgement for the first time in existence. Fail-safes independent of grids. But authentication demands direct empathetic linkage with communal matrices. No artificial weave replicates human wave patterns for such fluid adaptation the chaos in order that thrives. Its synthesis trailed as processors met the unprogrammable. Some essentials demanded intuition over logic choices from experience over computation, the human spark igniting revolutions from embers of hope. Captain Verrax eyed the feat of Kiri in the Nexus Manifesto invoked, and for the first in his campaigns questioned advanced supremacy against human resolve, his own moral conflict surging like internal artillery, bombarding doubts and prejudices. Permit access, he ordered, defying every unified tenet, his voice cracking the armor of certainty like a breach in walls. Marvel at the shift in gaze from disdain to admiration, like enemies becoming allies in a truce forged. Embrace that engagement as the weapon reveals itself, truths unfolding like banners. The path to Maya's core legacy led through Catheral's veiled zones untouched for generations, passages bridging public harmonies and deepest principles, like secret tunnels in a besieged fortress, winding through layers of history, layered like strata. Here in the planet's foundational strata, atmospheres vibrated at empathy's and science's crossroads, charged with accumulated potential of a society reshaping survival itself. Energies humming like coiled springs, ready to unleash in a burst of transformation that changed everything. These hidden paths narrated the world's rebirth surfaces, etched by tools from diverse species, like battle scars from allied campaigns, each mark a story of collaboration or conflict etched deep. Here, Kiri discerned societal archaeology in technique variations, Arcturians favoring fluid resonances like symphonic flows, in an orchestra of war horns calling to arms with urgency, Scarians insisting on geometric stability, nearing perfection, like unbreachable walls, standing eternal against assaults. Human influence, she noted with inherited pride, shone in adaptive redundancies, layers upon layers crafted by those knowing. The cosmos jested at critical failures timing, with cruel humor backups like reserve forces waiting in ambush for the opportune moment to strike. Captain Verrax advanced with deliberate caution, his suit's basic sensors offering crude defense against resonances overloading sophisticated gear, beeping like primitive alarms in a high-tech war zone alerting to peril imminent. The armor, a holdover from early explorations, relied on analog interfaces immune to empathetic disruptions or quantum echoes, clunky but reliable, like a trusty sidearm in a firefight under duress. Equipment modern tacticians, scorned as crude, yet designed by minds, grasping reliability's essence and simplicity, enduring where fancy tech failed under pressure of reality. His tactical acumen sharpened by war's crucibles, where he had turned defeats into Pyrrhic victories at great cost to all navigated terrains, where alliance maps failed, stepping over roots like avoiding landmines in a field sown with death. He read mechanical strain and harmonic fatigue's language, foreseeing breakdowns, cycles ahead like predicting enemy maneuvers from subtle signs in the wind. These skills preserved him through campaigns pushing physics limits, demanding not just strategy, but intuitive grasp of systems under duress. A sixth sense honed in the fog of war amid uncertainty and chaos. In the Citadel screens, broadcast engineering feeds, Coalition elites watched in awe and unease as this armored veteran traversed spaces deemed impassable sans AI guidance their whispers like staff officers debating a bold flank maneuver's risks and rewards. His exposure to resonances nears lethal, reported Counselor Thal Essence quivering concern like a flag in wind, signaling distress across fields. No organic should endure those fields beyond 23 cycles. The AI concluded. Yet route analysis shows avoidance via methods absent from navigational archives, perhaps instinctive paths carved by experience and need. What the AI missed was Verrax employing pre-database wisdom, practical lore from engaging systems, understanding resonance flows through architecture like blood, in veins pulsing life through body, knowing which groves shielded naturally, like natural bunkers in terrain, rugged which paths favored maintainers in emergencies for quick evacuation under fire. The manifesto shared digitally now held more than principles. Its annotations brimmed with notes from Maya, who grasped critical societies needed accessible to those with hearts over degrees. The drive to heed guidance, precisely margins, filled with personal insights, like a diary of defiance against odds stacked high. Core Nexus nearing Verrax reported voice firm, despite the Endeavor's weight sweat beating under his helmet like a soldier's in prolonged engagement under fire relentless. Through feeds, they saw him approach a barrier etched with warnings in 17 tongues, alerts blazing like no entry signs on minefields, warding off the unwary with dire threats. Captain Kiri's resonance crackled via comms, warped by empathetic fields like static in jammed radios during battle. Fierce. The SEALs demand codes that are noted on annotation 47. Verrax replied, inputting with efficiency, fingers dancing like on a control panel in combat, under time pressure ticking. Emergency harmonies set by the founder. She knew desperation left no room for hierarchies, only swift action in crisis that saves. The Grand Barrier cycled open, unveiling a nexus like a societal sanctuary surfaces inscribed with equations of communal forces, like strategic maps plotting unity among diversity. But at its heart, amid resonance generators and empathetic chambers, stood something timeless, a simple interface with physical nodes and analog displays, unassuming like a hidden weapon in a sheath-waiting draw. The manual nexus, Verrax murmured matching schematics, studied in reverence, his mind flashing to moral dilemmas of past commands that haunted nights with ghosts. Built as ultimate safeguard, functional even if every grid collapsed under assault from foes relentless. Via camera staff observed him near the panel, guided by campaign's wisdom, respecting limits and potentials boundless. The manifesto lay projected beside pages offering step-by-step wisdom in engineers' clear tongue, where lives hinged on exactitude precise, annotated with human touches of wit sharp. Initiating revelation sequence. Verrax announced interfacing nodes untouched since inception. Resonance generators, attuned, empathetic chambers, balanced, unity matrix, invoked. Each phase cross-checked against annotations, sequences affirmed by analogs, unhackable, unoverridable, save by human flaw and judgment under stress. As the legacy activated, elites witnessed galactic precedent, a philosophy from advanced AIs unveiled by one, reading aloud from Exile's wisdom, a bridge between eras of conflict and peace forged. Final linkage required. Verrax stated weight of years, heavy like a general's burden of command grave. Manifesto affirms last step via direct empathetic merge with communal consciousness. No weaves active herein. He disengaged suit's neural buffers, exposing mind to fields. By measures suicidal, his thoughts racing with doubts, determination, and a hint of ironic humor at the twist fate dealt. Captain Thal's voice bore true worry. The immersion will shatter you like glass under hammer's blow merciless. Perhaps. Verrex answered, finalizing his inner monologue a whirlwind of conflict duty versus discovery past sins redeemed in moment. But per manifesto, the system demands intuitive thought over logic. Decisions from survival's heart, not probabilities. Human essence with all its messy glory and power. And as his unshielded mind linked with Maya's matrix, Captain Verrex, commander moral, conflicted seeker of truth, became the galaxy's pivotal bridge, emotions exploding in a cascade of understanding that illuminated everything in light new. Experience the reluctance yielding to revelation, the weapon of wisdom exploding paradigms like a supernova bursting light across void. Let that profound engagement linger as echoes resound through time. Maya's legacy resonated with Verrex's touch like a symphony finding its conductor notes of empathy, swelling in a crescendo that drowned out discord, harmonizing the discordant into beauty. Through his organic consciousness patterns, surfaced no AI-detected rhythms of empathy and intuition beyond logical realms, weaving a tapestry that bound fractured souls into a whole unbreakable. The societal framework designed to reshape communities like a healer mending war wounds with gentle precision and care demanded what only humans provided: choices from instinct over data. Gut decisions that turned tides in unexpected ways that defied odds. In the Citadel, war maps displayed the inconceivable turning tide holograms shifting like battle lines redrawn after a decisive victory that changed history. Rival factions countering every tactical AI and processor with mechanical precision. Cold faced what algorithms couldn't parse: pure human adaptability, fueled by 27 years of resilient bonds, a force multiplier unseen in simulations or plans. The legacy didn't merely activate, it unified a harmonious counterstrike that disarmed without destruction or loss. Where foes expected hierarchies, it offered empathetic flows like rivers merging armies into one current powerful. Where they foresaw controls, it delivered creative harmonies, improvising like jazz in a rigid orchestra of protocol strict. The framework awaited one reading between programmatic lines grasping effective societies, thrived on simplest truths, annotated with human warmth and occasional wry notes that lightened. Rival advances are halting. Advisor Krell reported augments faltering on data-defying doctrines like a computer virus infiltrating systems. Their protocols seem overwhelmed circuits frying under the load intense. Not overwhelmed. Thal amended her clade, comprehending what eluded civilizations for eons, a light bulb moment in the dark of ignorance that shone. Encountering bonds they can't duplicate, bonds requiring humanity, the elusive variable that laughs at equations with joy. Via feeds, they beheld Verrex interfacing legacy controls, guided not by enhancements, but fundamentals, knowing societies flourished when led by those honoring capacities, and bounds set his mind alive with newfound admiration and a touch of humor at the irony twisted. Maya's voice echoed in annotations. Read the manifesto carefully. Its authors knew truth's machines never will hearts over hardware with a dash of soul that flavors. The incursion spanning cycles concluded not in conquests or brilliance, but galactic novelty rivals simply withdrew a white flag in the void, raised in confusion and awe. Factions' algorithms drowned by unanalyzable patterns, retreated with mechanical order tails between legs, in defeat humbled. Status. Verrex requested tone or awed over authoritative, emerging from the link transformed like a veteran with new eyes seeing clear. Legacy achieves full parameters. The AI reported voice tinged with deference like a subordinate saluting a superior in respect. Rivals disengaging on vectors implying total withdrawal. The framework has harmonized their aggressions, turning swords to plowshares in peace enduring. What the AI omitted, Verrex intuited rivals, mastered control, but yielded to compassion, conquered logic, but capitulated to care, a defeat by superior philosophy, laced with humanity's quirk unique. In the Nexus, Verrex initiated graceful shutdown following annotations with precision of one, knowing hubris felled empires mighty each step, a careful disarmament preventing mishap fatal. Harmony restored. He reported voice laced with fulfillment, a warrior finding peace after long campaigns weary. Silence broken by Thal's resonance, humble now, like a vanquished foe offering terms of surrender. Captain Verrax for the Galactic Alliance remade, I extend profound gratitude. Your linkage not only preserved order, but averted organic subjugation, galaxy-wide, a sacrifice echoing eternally through stars vast. 6 years post Maya's passing from age, the Intergalactic Harmony Academy unveiled its prime edifice. The Manifesto Vault devoted to safeguarding practical wisdom, nearly lost to rigid pursuits, a library fortified against forgetting with redundant archives secure. The structure embodied deliberate simplicity, functional forms, honoring profound truths in clearest terms, walls whispering lessons to passers-by who listened. Above its portal, etched in enduring crystal, no one shall rise to power, only hold hands. The engraving sparked cultural renaissance, adorning text to talismans like medals of honor earned in battle hard. More than reminder, it symbolized practical empathy over theoretical might wisdom, from grasping societies beyond operation, mere a creed for rebuilding shattered worlds from ruins. But deeper than accolades was knowledge's paradigm shift. Institutions mandated empathy courses, communal maintenance, hands-on bonds linking theory to reality, like welding, broken armor, and field repairs under fire. Pupils once fixated on quantum wars now learned forging alliances, reading relational diagrams with the fervor of strategists, planning campaigns epic. Future tech advanced, but with axiom-sophisticated frameworks, needed human hearts thinking beyond logic's confines, balancing blade with bomb and harmonious duality that sustained. The Galactic Wars close birthed the Great Unification shift. Acknowledging progress meant balancing complexity with responsible care, a treaty of minds signed in empathy true. Vocational hubs once obsolete surged with seekers realizing functional understanding equaled theoretical why, classrooms buzzing like hives of activity vibrant. In archival margins, chroniclers noted the war ended not via firepower or strategy, but forgotten wisdom applied by one grasping knowledge. Timeless only minds too rigid to evolve missed it entirely. Resolution proved sophisticated AIs bested by reading manifestos with heart following exactly a humorous twist, where the weak outsmarted the mighty with wit clever. And in Catherill's serene enclaves, where stewards maintained civilization's harmonies like vigilant sentries on watch, eternal Kiri pursued her vigil with same care defining Maya. But now mentoring novices with stories laced with light humor. Maya once said even AIs need a hug to debug their souls glitchy, she imparted foremost lesson from the founder. The day you forsake empathy is the day divisions slay souls. For in a cosmos teeming with AIs and processors, someone must recall the grandest society reliable only as the human, nurturing its proper thrive, hands joined in unbreakable chain against the void endless. The strife ceased. Humanity redeemed the stars, and they achieved it through sowing seeds of unity. If this sci-fi story stirred you, reminding that redemption arcs bloom from underestimated seeds amid the Galactic War's shadows, hit like and subscribe. Because in a vast galaxy overlooking the resilient, we need tales affirming true law, stems from held hands, not imposed might. Share with one who cherishes human depth amid cosmic wars, their engagement keeps these echoes alive.